Nicole, we have Peggy. All right, good. The time is 2:04. Calling to order the Dwight School Building Committee meeting on August 25th. Present here at the table, myself, Lauren Efron, Chair. I'm also joined by Jeff Galdenzi. Online, Peggy Macaluso, our Vice Chair, Nicole Olson. Also here at the table, we have Mark Schweitzer of Colliers, Justin Hopkins from Tecton. I see online we have Antonia and Jeff. Hi, guys. And Tim from Tecton as well. And sorry, John, I missed you. Another committee member, John Purcell. You guys are all
I'm here too, Lauren.
You are too. Dina, thank you. Sorry, guys, I don't have my glasses on. So it's even just reading names from here is a little challenging for me. Oh, and we have Rachel from Langen as well. I think the only one I see missing is maybe Nick.
Frank
okay.
DeReyes is here from Coloradoan.
And I'm sorry, Coloradoan?
Yes. Frank DeReyes. Francisco.
Thank you. Oh, I see you. Hi, Frank. Okay. Sorry for being a little hectic today. It's just one of those days. School's about to start. Kids are still home. Okay. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Recording in progress.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. Sorry if you can hear that. Little feedback going on.
Are you muted yourself?
Yeah.
Is your phone on too?
No.
Can you turn your volume down all the way?
It's off.
Can you log out and go back in?
Whatever you just did, that was it.
I left.
You left,
It works.
but you were trying to record.
Are you going to share your screen? Is that where you're logging in?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's never been a problem before.
Is this new?
Yeah.
I think that was it. Does it listen?
Possible. But try it this way.
Hang on one second, guys.
No, we're good. Go.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 4, to hear, consider, and approve Tecton invoice 49300. Mark provided backup. I sent it along with my agenda that I sent on Friday as well. Does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I need a motion to approve. Tecton.
Motion to approve. Recording in progress.
Sorry, can I have a second? To approve?
I'll second. I'll second.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay, I think you can only, one person can motion, someone else has to second. So Peggy has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous, we have approved Tecton's first invoice. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 5, to hear, discuss, and review the design coordination meeting of 8/18/2026. Tecton, I always put in here backup provided by you, and Antonia, we can post it afterwards. But do you have anything you want to share? Just a recap. It doesn't have to be a deep dive. This feels like ages ago to me now, but it was it was a great meeting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no problem. we can absolutely circulate the information afterwards. But yeah, we had our most recent design coordination meeting on building systems, and Frank, who's on the committee call today, was there leading that meeting along with other members of the team. And the discussion was really helpful. It continued a conversation that was started at the last building committee meeting around different options for systems. I think that the team is currently working on developing some different iterations of how we can achieve similar goals. So that work is still on our plate to come up with some different variations within those alternatives that were shown and discussed. And we anticipate that these conversations around building systems will likely continue in subsequent building committee meetings as well. So we'll provide that information along with any updates that the team compiles related to systems for discussion in subsequent meetings.
Okay.
If I may also add to that, Madam Chair, it was a full day last Tuesday, and we toured the Barnum Elementary School in Cheshire.
I wasn't going to forget about that. We were going to do it in the wrap up, but I'm glad you're mentioning it now because it was a great day.
My apologies.
No, it's okay.
But we hit Barnum in Cheshire and then Neck River in Madison, and then we all hustled back to our computers for this particular meeting. The only thing that I'll add to the MEP discussion that Antonia summarized, obviously we discussed it here at the building committee level first and continued that discussion at the design coordination level. I think some of this conversation is going to get rolled into where we are with the schematic design cost estimate and what some of the goals are with aligning with budget as well as the different mechanical systems.
Yes, this is an ongoing discussion, but I think each time it's raised, we get a little bit closer, at least to clarity and understanding what each option means, both cost-wise and how much space it takes for the building and the infrastructure involved behind it. I still feel like I'm learning every day, but I appreciate you guys walking us through all the options, and Frank as well. Okay. Well, that was fast. I'm going to move on to agenda item number 6 to hear, discuss, and review schematic design and estimate reconciliation. Mark, I don't know if you're able to share your screen. Yep. Okay.
It's working. I got the wheel of death right now.
So just kind of a brief overview in my very layman's terms of what went on last Wednesday. We were hosted up at the Tecton offices, and representatives from both Gilbane and Tecton and Mark and myself went over line by line all of the costs associated with the building design up to this point. Now, obviously, a lot of things are still to be determined, but I think there was a lot of really fruitful discussion. And we, of course, as the committee, had about a month to review the schematic designs and provide our feedback as well. But the reconciliation meeting was very eye-opening. We were there about 9 and left about 6, I want to say. So it was certainly a long day, but a lot was covered. And we also had representative from Langen.
All of our consultants were in attendance, including our cost estimator, our civil engineer, landscape, Langen, Michael Horton Associates, our structural engineer, and Kohler Ronan, our MEPFP engineers.
That's keeping me honest. So everybody was there. It was good. And we are closer to understanding exactly how much this is going to cost. But again, there's still lots to sort of be decided. And so we're going to maybe bring some of those topics.
Yeah. Is just to give you a little bit of background, estimates were due the week before, I believe the 14th. Got them both in. We set it up. The initial spread was, Gilbane was at about 83,700,000. PAX came in. PAX is the estimating consultant for Tecton, came in at 76,200,000.
I'll take his.
Control budget's at 59.4. We spent last Wednesday going over this, as Lauren said, line item by line item, making sure that the scope and the cost aligned. I believe we're within 3%. The two estimates are now within 3% of each other. So as far as the estimate reconciliation, the schematic design is reconciled to what is in the actual schematic design document. So the scope that is in there has been reconciled and we reconciled to essentially 81.2 for Gilbane and 78.8 for PAX, which is within 3%. Again,
you mentioned PAX is the estimator for Tecton.
Correct. Just so as we were going through, not only we're aligning scope and cost, we're also looking at misscope or areas where we could take advantage of value managing the budget. So part of the exercise on last Wednesday was to, as we were going through and we were determining what the scope was, we came up with a list of items that potential cost savings that we could do. We have numbers for them that need to be vetted. We have not only ads, but not only do we have deducts, but we have ads as well through items that came up during the reconciliation, items that came up during the school tours the Tuesday before. So as it stands right now, we are closer, call it. We are not there yet. There are some other items that we are looking at that need to be further defined on the design or scope of it to actually put a price to it. But some of the major items that we are looking at you want me to get in some of the major?
Yeah,
okay.
If you don't mind.
Yep. The overall square footage of the building, the budget was based on basically 85,000 square feet. The square footage is at 90.
On the schematic design.
On the schematic design, 91,000 square feet. So we have a general square foot reduction there.
Can I just, because I think this is an important distinction to bring up. There are two ways to calculate gross square footage in a building. One is what is considered the grant area, which is typically inside face of exterior walls, and they have a very prescriptive method for counting areas of double height space. So when we typically look at an ed spec, we determine the area to be the grant funded area. Now that is different than what a contractor or construction manager considers gross square footage, which is to the total construction area outside face of exterior wall. So while the drawings, when we actually calculate the grant funded area, we are close to what the 85,000 square footage is. But obviously when you take into account the total contractor area, that's what
accounts for the difference.
That's what accounts for the difference. Now, all of the square footage numbers that we're using, cost per square foot, are based on the contractor area. We have this kind of distinction, and I won't say it an argument, but clarification at the start of every reconciliation meeting. That being said, I think the target of a 5,000 square foot reduction is one that's on the table for achieving some value management.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying that it is really 85. It's just reading as 90 according to,
It's a different way to calculate.
it's a different way to calculate it.
Square footage, yes.
So if we were to reduce it by a further 5, we would really be down to 80?
I
Sorry.
don't want to say that yet. I
know,
think we need
I
to
know.
go through the exercise and then calculate.
Okay.
So when we go to PCR review, pre-bid conformance review to the state, there, do we know who our PM is yet? Doesn't matter. They're all going to ask, where's your section 16 that tells me where the grant calculations are for the square footage?
And that's where
That
you provide.
Yes. Yep.
So they won't necessarily allow for the,
It
Additional-
becomes a little bit more, important if you're over what the allowable area is for a building and you do not have a space waiver. So we're going to be fine when we go to PCR. I guess I will just say. So that's why it's an important distinction to list them separately, the two methods separately on our code sheet, because the grants people want to.
that's what they're going to look at. Okay, well, I appreciate you pointing that out, Justin. Does anybody have a question about that from the committee?
I do. I
Yes.
just want a more of an opinion, I guess, but there's a lot of things on here that are nice. That would be great. I would love for my kids to have them. I'd rather my kids have space. So I just don't, I personally think like finding 5,000 square feet to take off, like slices here and there, that'll just make everything a little tighter. I'd rather just look more, not to the building envelope and the building walls itself, but to what are we putting in the building to lower those costs? And there are things that can be added on later. There are things that we can petition for with the town a couple years down the road, say, hey, we really wanted it. It wasn't in the budget. But we can never go back and ask for 5,000 more square feet.
Okay,
that's just my opinion.
Point.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. I think it's worth noting at least, we don't have responses back to everything, but we did submit a lot of questions between Colliers and the committee members in regards to the square footage of each room, each storage area, each, the program space itself. And I think that was also part of the reconciliation meeting, right? And so we want to be sure that everything that was called for in the ed spec is accounted for and is there.
Lauren, Peggy's hand is up, just so you know.
Yes, Peggy, thank you.
If we reduce the square footage, we reduce everything else. All the other costs will be reduced. Obviously, if you have 5,000 less square feet, then you have, 5,000 square foot less of roof or similar costs. Your plumbing costs go down, your mechanical costs go down. Everything goes down by reducing square footage. Now, you know that based on the reimbursement, we got a great reimbursement, but it's only for a certain percentage of square footage. I think, unlike with Nicole, I think reducing the square footage is the way to go.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Are we in risk of it being running over right now, Mark, in your opinion? I mean,
As far as what is,
I know we have to ask for, and we had to find out exactly what the design was before we could ask for a space standard waiver. But are we in excess of that at this point, according to John's calculations?
what we're in excess of is the 76 million was based on the 85,000 square feet building. What you're going to run into is when you go back to the town boards for more money, they're going to look at the square footage that was approved, or the 76 million was approved on or based on, and what the building is at now. And they're going to say, well, the square footage exceeds, so therefore reduce, is my fear.
I hear that logic. However, I'd like to go back to the very definition of the calculation, which was the ed specs, right? Not, I understand that the 76 million was tied to that square footage, but that was produced by a different firm with a very different building conceptually, and there was not firm schematics associated with that. So while it is helpful, obviously, you got us to this point, I think we have to kind of take another step back and look at the original ed specs, which was 56,000 square feet, and then we did the gross core factor, right? Calculation based off of that was what we came to the 84.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So, yes.
Just to point out what I know you and I have discussed in the past too, before we go throwing out the baby with the bathwater on such a great design, because some of the things that will come up with that is the fact that we've actually brought the building envelope into a smaller, like we did the build together, you know, versus those one main wing, two other wings. Like if anything, the town's
For
gonna
sure,
take-
we made it a more efficient space.
yeah,
And we
but the
also
other problem
reduced
lies with this was based off of Spagals, FCA, whatever you want to call them now. The cart was put before the horse by the town itself, not by anybody in this room. And it was already proven that Spagals was kind of making promises, you know, writing checks that they wouldn't have been able to cash in the long run. This wouldn't be the first time they did it. And I do recall that if we go back into the BOE meetings, there was numerous times, in particular, Jen Jacobson pointed out, I don't think that number's right. And it was always on the low side. So I don't think we should be too scared about explaining some things and just seeing what the town says. Again, and Peggy, I totally get your point. It's not just, I mean, what they put there, the 3.44 million in savings on the square footage, that does include everything. That's what they're saying. Like on average, it's 688 a square foot. When you're factoring in everything, that's not just the building envelope. I believe that would be considered the overall schematics of the school.
That's based on the square footage, yes.
Yeah, so like I see what Peggy's saying. Like, yeah, that 3.4 million, if we have to do it, we have to do it. I would just like to see if we could take it from a few other things, such as the outdoor dining area, which is great for the teachers, but a 12-year-old isn't like only the 12-year-olds would be able to use it, or 11-year-olds really. Things like that I'd like to see, but don't forget that the town, we were presented with 76 million with one F, but there were questions already arising over whether or not that 76 million was accurate, and it was always, are we too low? So
I agree. I agree, Nicole. I think is this accurate? Are we too low? Could it cost more than this? Those were all questions that came up over and over again.
Jen
not
pulled
just
out straight calculations. Jen pulled out straight calculations about HVAC, demo, and I believe the sewer, the whole septic thing. Those were three major ones. Jen Jacobson pointed out that based on current market values, she felt were low on Spagal's report. So I don't think this is a matter of anybody screwed up. I just think it's a matter of we have to reconcile things that were done by a company who was just trying to win a bid.
Point well said. Peggy, you still have your hand up? Yes?
Yeah, I don't plan on going back to the town for more money. No way. You make that budget work. You said that in the beginning, Lauren, and I'm going to hold you to it. You said you would not go back to the town for more money, and I will not support that at all. Not when we have an elementary school that still has no air conditioning in it. And if you were to look at my Excel spreadsheet on my comments, there were half a dozen comments that said, this is excessive. It doesn't add to the educational program. It needs to be omitted. There were a number of items.
I kept pointing that out. I said extravagant, excessive. I saw your comments, and when I was in the reconciliation meeting, your voice was in the back of my head going, do we really need this? Do we really need this? So I hope you see, as we're gonna keep going through this, guys. We can talk about the 5,000 square feet that we want to cut off, you know, the current design, but I hope you see that there have been some really intense discussions on the back end here, including this morning. We had Vianney, can you tell me what?
Basically, the design team and the CM team got together with Laura and myself and just went over the went over the spreadsheet and where we're at and what still needs to be done.
So we are already trying to value engineer areas that we think can be reduced. And then Peggy, to your point, that will help reduce all the other associated costs with it. So why don't we just, for the purpose of this meeting and this discussion, because I think we're talking about a lot of broad things here. We've got things specifically highlighted that were results of going through this, 9-hour-long meeting, areas where we thought that we could maybe create some savings, or they could be additions rather than just being included. So we're going to go through a couple of them. These are not all necessarily voting items right now, but I'd like to have discussions on some of them, or how we arrived at the decisions that we did.
Did anybody look at the site plan as far as bringing the utilities on the other side of the building?
So I'm glad you brought that up. That was part of our discussion this morning. Is the building itself placed in such a way that it's efficient for utilities? Justin actually brought it up. And I believe the consensus was with Gilbane that this is the best place to put it and the most efficient to run.
It's also the longest line. If we bring it around the south side, we already have the area paved. So it's not like we will be infringing on anything. You already know, because it's paved, you already have a good idea what's underneath it. So you can run, you would save, I don't know, hundreds of feet of utility costs by bringing it around to the south side.
But Peggy, if the solution is to bring the building closer, I think what Justin, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if we were to bring the building further down the hill, right, like onto the playground level, which is down about a 7-8% grade, I want to say, into like another plateaued area, we would probably have rising costs in terms of just moving earth and leveling things out, and then having to deal with some of the building being at or below grade. So again, and Nick, I don't want to put words in your mouth either, but I think you were in agreement that this was the most efficient cost, I want to say economic of the options, right?
That's correct. If it was a completely flat level
area,
if it was a completely flat and level site, then
right,
perhaps bringing it closer to the road to save on utilities and some other things would make sense. But given the topography, putting it in the back at a level location is more efficient than the longer runs.
I'm not saying moving the building. I'm saying moving the runs.
Yeah, Peggy, if I can just jump in here, you're talking about, rather than routing the utilities on the northern access point past the tennis courts, investigating, looking at the southern drive, which is
correct.
We'll check the lineal feet, etc. And if it looks like an opportunity, we'll certainly put it on the list. Some of this kind of goes into the presumed sequencing of the work, but we'll vet it with Langen and Gilbane.
Okay.
I could just say one thing about the square foot reduction. Marcus, you got $688 a square foot in there.
Yes. You're at 922.
Well, that's the 688 was direct construction, and
correct.
So I get why you have that value. But if you don't cut all divisions from that 5,000 square feet, you're not going to realize a $688 a foot savings, right?
Correct.
So just think, if we reduce the corridors all by a foot, and you thereby reduce the size of the building by, let's say, 5,000 feet, you haven't reduced one plumbing fixture, you haven't reduced a single light, you've reduced flooring, you've reduced ceiling tiles, you've reduced probably maybe some drywall, but you haven't really reduced much foundation, not reduced anything outside the building footprint on site. So I would just really caution against using that number as the metric and saying, okay, how many square feet do we need to cut at 688 a foot to get to the budget?
No, I agree. I didn't use the full number. It was a number that I want to throw in there just to, as a discussion. But yeah, no, I agree. It is not, your general conditions don't get cut either. So that's why I kind of didn't take the full across the board. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, if we can get back to the list.
Yep.
Guys, I would also encourage committee members, feel free to ask these questions, but maybe we can get through the list. You can kind of keep a running log of things you want to ask, and we can ask them at the end or as the subject comes up, because you might find that some of the things you have questions about are things that we already discussed. Okay.
And the reason for this list is before even giving this back to Tecton to incorporate into the drawings, it will get approved by the building committee, so they have clear direction on what they're doing in the design development drawings. We had in the schematic design scope full depth replacement of the pavement on the whole site. We have reduced that to mill and pave partial existing areas. It looks like closer to Reading Road. We may be able to at least save the base of the pavement, but as you get around by the tennis courts, the grade will need to be regraded so the pavement will need to be matched to that. So there is some savings there. Outdoor dining we have as being removed. We talked about the granite curbing at in the parking areas next to the school, turning that into concrete curbing. I also put in using bituminous concrete lip curbing along the roadways, or I guess the other one is to get rid of curbing along the drives up and just limit it to around the school. Sports field was also discussed, the under drains. What do we actually need to do to that sports field, the one that we are taking up top? Any savings in the play surface for the playgrounds? I believe the basis of design is poured in place. Going to a alternate that is being looked at by FPS. Removal of the corn crib, removal of the pre-action systems for the MDF and IDF rooms. We have 4 different options for the HVAC. In the schematic design report, there was 85 geothermal wells, reducing that down to 70 to 75. Colaronen thought that was achievable. Going to the hybrid. Option 3, going to option 3, and then taking none of the options out of the schematic design report and going with a straight VRF alternative. We have adds of the photovoltaic systems, the removal of the integral gutters on the pitched roofs, roofing changes. The first 15 is an add, going to a modified bit roofing, and is the FPS standard. Removing the pitched roof altogether and changing it to a flat roof, or changing the pitched roof from a standing seam metal roof to an alternate material. There is no cost on 16 because that could be incorporated into the 5,000 square foot reduction, but eliminate the underground mechanical room. The operable windows, then 18, 19, well, 18 is on the tours on that preceding Tuesday. Each of the gyms that we toured had four rows of bleachers along one long side of the gym. There was thought of adding those in. 18 curtain wall reduction, just reducing the overall amount of curtain wall and going to a conventional or a stick-built punched hole, punched window walls.
And in case anybody had a question about this, because I had repeated questions, maybe you don't, but the curtain walls are like expansive sections of glass, like burr, as opposed to like a traditional window frame. And it's a bit more expensive to do something like that. It's a design element. I don't know that we necessarily need it. And I personally have some concerns about large expanses of glass, both because I don't think it's great for the birds and safety and security wise, I don't think it's great either. Sorry, go ahead.
Minimize the sawtooth roof. The sawtooth is to let natural light into the larger spaces, the gyms and the media center.
The central
core.
core.
Removal of the TV studio.
That's in the ed specs. It is not in any other elementary school in Fairfield. I'd have to go back and see, but I don't believe, that was an add-on in a facilities meeting. It was a vote 2-1. It was not unanimous. And then it was, placed on the ed spec, obviously voted through. But right now there is currently no podcast TV studio room anywhere else. So I think it's a bit excessive. We could potentially go back to the Board of Ed and ask to reduce that. It's savings of 300 square feet. Sorry.
The removal of the extended treehouse, that will be more than likely incorporated into the square foot reduction. The heavy timber decking, replacing that with steel deck and then removing the canopies altogether. And then the one I got last night was the use of instead of hard duct in the large areas, the gyms, the cafeterias, the two-story open spaces, using a duct sock, which is basically what it sounds. It's a filtered, it's a fabric ductwork in these large areas that collapses when it's not pushing air through it.
It doesn't collapse like one of those noodles.
Yeah.
that occurs.
It's structured, but it's not. Yeah. But it's not hard.
Incidentally, that was you probably didn't even notice it, or maybe you did on your tours. That was in Cheshire, the Cheshire Gymnasium.
It was up in the roof, in the rafters. I did not notice. Okay, well, good to know. Good to know. All right, is that the full list? Or is there more?
It's a full list.
So guys, each of those involved a lengthy discussion, just so you know, both last week and then this morning as well. If you have questions on any of them, a couple of things I'd like to highlight, and it was, this was definitely a change. Operable windows are not a must. It is might be nice to have. In most of the schools, I believe, except for Burr, there are operable windows. However, it's worth noting that the schools that we toured last week did not have them because it creates instability in temperatures, right? Maintaining the indoor air quality, and they're able to control everything, obviously, digitally through the building. But one thing you can't control is if a teacher opens a window and that throws everything off, or at least in that room, it can throw things off. So I think it's worth a discussion. It would be a savings as well, but we reversed it. Sorry, not a savings. It would be an add-on if we wanted to make them operable. So I'm for not having operable windows because I think it is.
Lauren, there's somebody writing. I think they're trying to. It might be Peggy. I'm not sure. Somebody from the iPhone. It's saying
Burr has operable windows. Who is that? I don't.
Maybe Sal? Is Sal on? He would know.
It's whomever is on their iPhone. It's just showing iPhone.
Okay,
And then
Yes,
hand was up.
it's Sal. Burr does have operable windows.
does have?
Does have.
Okay,
There's
thank
not
you
a
for the
school in
correction.
Fairfield that doesn't have operable windows.
They all have operable windows.
Everybody
They all
has
have
operable windows.
operable windows.
All right,
Yeah.
so then this would be a change. Sorry, thank you for the correction.
Peggy's hand's been up, and then I have a question for Sal.
Peggy?
Why isn't the IDF walls that everybody likes so much, why isn't that included in the deduction?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Those IDF walls?
IDF walls.
ICF.
Yeah,
Oh, ICF.
Sorry.
that wasn't part of the base set
It's
of
not part of the scope, actually.
We haven't done pricing on it.
We haven't done pricing on it yet, Peggy.
You haven't done pricing on it, so that will add to the overall.
It would add. It's correct. Or it might, we honestly, we have to have like, they've drawn out, am I wrong? You drew out?
It was part of the schematic design submission to price it as an alternate.
Okay, so it could be an add alternate. The design is in there, we don't have the price yet?
It's at this level, much like we defined 3 different mechanical systems, we defined 2 different structural systems. One, a conventional stick frame, stick as in steel columns and beams. We included the location of ICF walls to provide a pricing alternate. So I think, I know Gilbane was looking at this in terms of sequencing as well, because it does affect kind of the sequencing of construction. So I don't think that we've seen those numbers yet.
Yeah, Mark, if you go to the item 1, I think item 1 was ICF.
On yours.
Nick, would you mind shedding a little bit of light on the sequencing and how that would affect things?
Yeah, so just on the cost, our estimators had it at a slight add, so about $83,000, give or take, would be the add to go to ICF. The sequencing, though, it's a good question. The way these buildings are typically designed and built, we excavate for the foundations, we build the foundations, we stand up the columns, we connect them with beams. Once the structure is erect and the decking of that structure is complete, then it opens up a lot of work for other trades, from exterior wall framers to masons to all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing trades to the roofer. And then they all work from there off of that completed structure. When you do ICF, full height walls above grade, you're essentially building those concrete walls on the outside first. And then infilling with steel beams. There's far less steel columns, very few steel columns, some in the interior portion of the building, maybe buried in the corridor walls, if you know, in select locations. But there's a lot more handoffs between the concrete contractor building those insulated concrete walls and the structural steel contractor. And then while that work is going on, no other work is really happening in that area. If this were a 5, 6, 10-story building, it might make sense, and we could allow other trades to get work started on floors below the floor we were actually working on when we're setting the floors in an insulated concrete building. But being a 2-story building, it basically pushes the schedule out probably a month and a half.
Really, Nick? Honestly, I'm challenging that, because everybody we spoke to, all these other school projects that we've talked to in other states, I've heard acceleration of schedule, not adding months. Is this a Gilbane newness issue, or is it truly? Is that played out? I'm just challenging that. That seems really off to me. I'm even surprised you're $83,000, honestly.
Well,
Yeah, I thought the cost would have probably been a little bit less, but again, on this budget, negligible. The month and a half is what we came up with, looking at milestones. We didn't do a full-blown schedule on it. The reps that we've spoken with are adamant that it's a cost savings, but even those same reps acknowledge that it does change the sequencing and increase the duration of the job.
Interesting. Sequencing certainly makes sense.
I think what's important at this stage is that we have a possible plan if we wanted to include it. It sounds like we need to maybe understand a little bit more about the pricing. To Nick's point, I don't know that I would use the word negligible. I mean, yes, in the grand scheme of things, $83,000 is, it's not a huge jump. But what
But
it
you may need those
Yes.
45 days. Those 45 days are probably more important than that $83,000.
Or there's another way to look at this, Peggy, is that the return on investment for ICF is that you would have a more, I don't want to use the word structurally sound, but you would have a very sound envelope. You would have an easier to control internal air quality system and temperature wise. I mean, I think the reason why this is being adopted widely and why we, we're curious about it in the first place is because of the benefits in the long term, that it might potentially help reduce the cost of utilities on running this building. But I hear there are definitely, and I want to discuss them all. There are definitely, with any change to structure, there's going to be.
So your proposal, the secondary structural proposal using ICF, it takes into account the offsets that would be in place with that?
The offsets meaning the
MEP, impacts to MEP, impacts to DOAS, those types of things that would, in theory, be less needed.
So the schematic design drawings were primarily addressing the structural component in order to help identify that so that we could get our arms around that scope of work. I'm not convinced that the mechanical, I guess I'll have to circle back with Kohler Ronan regarding
if there's any savings.
If there's any savings. I can tell you that modern educational environments are very tight buildings. The project that we did in Madison, when they did at Neck River, when they did the air blower test, the comment was, this is the tightest building that we've ever tested. So in terms of air leakage and the calculations for insulation and EUI, how that impacts the EUI of the building, are already at a very high standard in terms of the mechanical systems. But I'm kind of answering a question that I need a little bit of backup from and work from Kohler Ronan on. So. Frank, I know you're on, and I don't necessarily want to pin you down to an answer here, but nonetheless, I called on you.
I was more questioning the process more than the actual.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was looking for $17. I was more looking for, would that be included in the?
This is strictly a structural number.
Okay. Good question, Peggy.
Thank you. Also, we talked about 350 kW generator. I see on this list we have 1,000 kW. What's the savings if we went back to the 350? Any idea?
The 1,000 kW was an alternate in the electrical narrative, and that was to have basically full building backup and not partial.
Right.
So the base is the smaller generator, so that should be carried. I assume the bigger generator obviously be an add.
Okay.
If that was considered.
John's hand's been up, Lauren.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Nicole. I mean,
Mark.
John.
Mark, I had a quick question. So how much are you trying to reduce? Again, what's the number you're trying to get from and to?
Our control budget is 59.4. We've got to get to where we are, as a committee, comfortable moving forward design development, where we can get the project built within the $76 million.
So
I
you
think,
said $17 million is the answer.
I think we reconciled to about 80 million, right, Mark? And
Yeah,
if
we're at,
just rounding up to 60. We're looking to get from
Yeah.
80 million, 50 million on the construction costs, which
I
would
mean-
then translate. If we got to 60 million, would translate to a $76 million total project cost.
there is, we are carrying a 7.5% design contingency and basically 5.5 million in escalation. I definitely would not touch the escalation because that's to the midpoint of construction. The design contingency, there's an argument there that some of that, could we design it to the above number? It is good practice to carry a design contingency, and this is a low one for schematic design. We've seen them as high, typical is probably 10%, and on some schematic designs, I've seen 12 to 15%. So this is a very good schematic design where it's pretty well defined. So it was, both estimators thought that the design contingency at 7.5% to cover items that are not designed is a good number. But the argument could be made that, I would take it all, but you could probably, if we're percentage points away and you're still at 7.5%, you could say, yeah, we're there with the design contingency.
Mark, that's
So
25% of the 59.4.
No, of the actual direct cost of the total direct number above.
You're showing something, but I couldn't read that anyways. So what does that convert to dollars?
It is 4.5 million.
Yeah, but things change in design, from design development, from
Agreed.
design.
There's
So-
push and pull on both
I
sides.
think- And I think that's starting to get into playing with the bookkeeping to make the numbers work, and I would not support that whatsoever. Ever support that.
Explain that, Peggy.
I'm not, Peggy, I agree with you. I'm not saying that I'd take it all, but if we're $500,000 away and we're still at 4.5 million on a design contingency, which is percentage points on the overall design, that's something that we could move forward with, cognizant of the fact that we're still over, but we have a path forward in design development.
What I don't want to get to is design development still be millions of dollars in overrun, and then all of a sudden have to pay the architect VE fees to redesign again. At this point, the VE changes are within his scope to change. Once we get to DD, the architect and Polovonen is going to come back to us and say, hey, if you want a VE project, you're going to have to pay us again. And that's definitely not what I see it all the time. Everybody comes in with these, rose-colored glasses, and then you get these estimates, and everybody is shocked, and it's like, oh my God, we're $15 million over budget. And it's like, yeah, wait till you get to DDs. Wait till you get to the end and start taking out that asbestos in an old building. Wait till you have to tell each kid they got to share a seat because you don't have enough in your FF&E budget. I've seen it all. This is just a start. I wouldn't cut anything. If anything, I would leave everything fat.
Peggy, I've got Nicole and John waiting online to make some comments. I'm gonna thank you for your insight and your experience. I appreciate it. I think I understand better what you mean by, fixing numbers. We don't want to do that either. So I'm gonna start with Nicole. You have your hand up?
Well, no, I don't think John ever finished his original comments or questions, so I'm gonna let John go ahead.
Sorry, John, go ahead.
So Mark, you're saying we're looking for 4.5 million out of 59.4 million part of the project?
No, we're looking to get down where we have a path to 59 million.
So we're looking to get down to 59 million, which is within our original budget.
I think that the flat out answer just answered how much do we need to cut as of right now that will put us back in the black?
Okay.
Just
Thanks,
the number,
Nicole.
not
That's another way of
percentage.
saying it. Thank you, Nicole.
We're at 80 million and we need to get down to 60.
So we need 20 million.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And the other question I had, there were some comments about how the original budget might have been a little bit aggressive. So we toured Barnum and Neck River. And Barnum appeared to be a higher end, more modern, more futuristic build out. Neck River seemed to be a pretty basic, but really well thought out, well designed school. Do we know what those schools cost per square foot because those are, I mean, one is opening in a few weeks, one opened a year ago. Are our costs in line with those, or did we start out this with a budget that is a real challenge just from day one?
I could ask.
And if you don't have the answer,
No, I'm glad
maybe
you asked that. I did look it up myself, actually, because I was curious after looking at both schools, but I agree with you. Neck River was a really efficient use of space, well-designed, very close square footage-wise, I believe, to the scope of our building. And I think I saw, and Nick, maybe you can correct me on this, that the budget was initially 61 million, and I think you guys came in around 66.
Yeah, I think you're talking about total project budget. I can't speak to that, but the construction budget, which is the 80 and the 60 that we're talking about here for apples to apples comparison, we were at about $540 a square foot construction for a job that was bid in late 2023, early 2024. So if you escalate that, essentially almost 4 years to the midpoint of construction for this job, that puts you at about $635 a square foot. Our estimate right now for this is considerably above that. I think.
But Neck River did not include demo and abatement.
That's correct.
Site work was probably comparable.
Focus
Yeah.
on our school and our situation at hand, not the other school, because things change. There are a lot of variables that change, right?
And we have a unique situation.
Correct.
That they didn't have to deal with the old school.
Correct.
Okay.
How do we get $20 million off the top? That's the bottom line.
You cut square footage. I hate to be the one to say it, but you're never going to get $20 million out of a 90,000 square foot building and keep it at 90,000.
I agree with Nick. You got to cut the square footage.
I wish it wasn't that way, but if it were 5 or 6 million.
When I said that, I thought it was the 3.4 million. I'm not, if you're going with 20 million, we have to do everything.
Right.
That's it. We have to do everything that you guys just listed plus some. That the numbers don't even add up to 20 million yet.
So I think.
Okay, let me ask my question so I could just, because I'm writing them down and trying. So go back, this might go back a little. Nick, who did you get your ICF pricing from, or is this something that Gobain came up with just market pricing?
I think he blended the two together. I forget the name of the rep that we used. Tim I used on the call. He was the one that forwarded that or pushed that rep over to us to get really good information from. So I can look that up, but let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
Just take it.
It was Nudura.
Nudura, yep. So
Nudura.
when it comes to there's always a debate among estimators about how much to rely on manufacturers and subcontractors for pricing. We've seen it very close, and we've seen numbers that are just not even close from what they told us to what we saw on bid day. So our estimators try and look at it from several different lenses and sort of blend those together, figure out maybe which one should be weighted more than the other, and come up with a number. So we didn't rely solely on Nudura, but we did factor it in.
Okay. Going back to, sorry, I'm going to hop around just because I was writing down stuff as you guys were all going on. The generator, I think Peggy brought up a great point. Do we know from the town of Fairfield what the generator is expected to do so we know what size we need to go after. Is the town saying it has to be partial, or is the town saying we need the building operational for 24 hours?
Only Angela's were here. Do you know, Mark?
I can jump in on that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I thought Sal might be able to, yeah.
Oh, thanks, Sal. Sorry, I don't see your face.
Yeah, so we don't have any 24/7 requirement for the generator. Usually it's picking up emergency operation, making sure that we're able to keep the building from freezing up in the winter. We're making sure that the food services, refrigeration, and freezer systems, they're picked up so we're not losing product. That's what the emergency systems, what it historically has been sized for. There is some benefit to having greater capacity of picking up larger loads for demand response. We do get money back if we participate in a program for demand response. I couldn't put a number on that, but there is some benefit to that. So if you wanted to keep it tight, it would be all the emergency systems and keeping protection of the building systems that the generator should be sized for. So that would make it very, I don't want to say tiny, but smaller. I don't know if that's a great dollar benefit, though.
I think that falls in line with our base generator size
Which
of
was
350
350,
kW.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the list that you had was probably very close to what we normally would do.
Okay.
Right.
This is going really far back now. Sorry about this, guys, but Sal, I'm somebody who loves fresh air. I want to lead with that. I always play devil's advocate, so I don't want you to think I'm asking you this, but would you be once again willing to talk to somebody who is in a building where the windows don't open and close, and some of the teachers that were told kind of were like, oh man, no, this did end up not being an issue for us, since there is a possible cost savings there, and also cost savings overall of the function of the building as it's up and running? Would you like, or are you like, absolutely not, all of Fairfield schools must have operable windows and I don't want to hear it?
I'll be truthful, you'll have staff pushback for a building that doesn't have operable windows. You don't have to convince me. I'm just telling you that once that gets out, you'll probably get pushback about that. I'm just being honest with you.
Jason, you had a response to that too?
To give you past history, we did that in Mill Hill. We put non-operable windows in it. We got huge pushback from the teachers and the unions and the faculty about that we had to spend money to replace them again.
How long ago was that? Just out of curiosity.
And they screw up your heating and cooling.
I get it.
That's our ICF right there.
I get it.
We can save on operable windows and get ICF instead.
You're changing the ed specs too, and you have the ed specs.
It does not say operable.
Yeah.
It does not.
It's
Really?
silent on operable windows.
Okay.
You were in those meetings.
If you get pushback, which I think you will, that be prepared. I get it.
I was just asking, so I want to know, because they taught us about the new versions of the DOAS systems and how they can actually pump fresh air directly into specific rooms for the teachers that feel like they're having issues. So I wasn't sure how old or how long ago the Mill Hill was, what type of systems those were.
We did it for the same reason. It'll be more efficient. That was the main reason. The air conditioning, pro-COVID times with the filterization, everything of the thing, same thing. It's more efficient.
Yeah, more efficient, and the security of it all. Okay.
Nicole, just to get
Stratfield, Riverfield, Holland Hill, Mill Hill were all designed with DOAS systems. So that's not the focus of the problem.
No,
it's staff perception.
Yeah.
Staff perception.
Staff perception. Okay. All right. And then.
So, Nicole, could I just highlight that when we were at Neck River and we spoke to the facilities manager there, the staff perception he was able to assist with, but basically, if they felt like the room was stuffy, he was able to sort of alter. I don't know exactly how he did it. He explained it to us briefly, but he was able to sort of push more air into the room so that they could audibly hear, like the system kind of kick on and.
He increased the outdoor air to 100%, so it made it seem like it was all fresh air. Well, it was all
He was just saying that that's more of a newer system. So it's something that none of our schools have ever, despite the DOAS systems we do have, that is something that's never been before that, along with they have the capability of controlling their own space within 4 degrees of the set mark for the building. So in other words, if one teacher runs cold and the other one runs hot, instead of opening a window because you can't, you can actually adjust the temperature within your own space. So that was newer, from my understanding, newer technology that we might have not had before. That I don't know about you, but like I have window units. Again, I'm sitting in my 1921 home that's about to be demolished, and I still have all my windows closed and ACs running. So it's like the days of having to open and close your windows to control your room temperature is gone. And then he was just saying that the janitors and the staff loved it because no one accidentally left a window open over a long weekend or something like that, where all of a sudden you got a bunch of rain in, or it got colder, or it got hotter, and it threw off the humidity in the building. So that's why they liked it. But I totally see, I'm not going to lie, if I was a teacher, if you came to me and said, you can't open your window, I do think at first I would question that hard. And I don't know if I would like it. So I was just wondering about that, if like it's something worth talking about more with the teachers at one of our PTA meetings, or one of the things that we do to see if that is a perception we could bend, and saying like, hey, if we got this to work as well as your HVAC unit in your own home did, then would you want it? Because drive around Fairfield, there's not that many open windows right now. Everybody's like shut in and AC. I think that was it for me, and then I'll stop. Sorry, I just had to go way back because I wanted to wait and hold my question.
Thank you.
I think you guys are kind of missing the point. You know, we're not talking $100,000. We're talking $20 million. We're talking, 25% of the budget. I mean, we're not going to get that by taking out operable windows.
No, but at a cost of $90,000, that's a pretty big thing. It's different than, say, taking, even though I agree with you, Peggy, a 20-foot sign for the school down to, say, 10 feet, which I think is what we have now and seems more reasonable to me. We're looking for the big ticket items. If we get enough of those, we can add them up. It will make a dent. And then, as much as I'm sad to see it go, like the corn crib, that's another big ticket item. Take that off, and that's another savings. The treehouse, which I think you were initially worried about how much it was going to cost to cool it, right, on a hot day. That's a lot of curtain wall there. We're talking about completely removing that from the design.
At what point are we just down to a rectangular building with no character then?
But that's what you may have to come down to, right?
That's fine, as long as the town understands that that's the position they put us in, that they're not going to get this brand new shiny item.
You're still getting a shiny new square box, right?
Yeah.
The goal is at the end is that's how it should be, but you're adding the things that are different that we're going to move forward. Like you're hoping at this case, geothermal can stay on the table.
We're still working the numbers, but yeah.
That's the issue, how it has been.
That's a big ticket.
That's a huge ticket. That's how it's been on all the other building projects. And I brought it up all the time. It was on every single building project. It is a great system. It is good, but it's a big ticket item. And that's the first thing we removed on the last two. And those, besides the stuff like the tree houses and stuff, yes, that's a huge start. The geothermal, going back to a brand new square, if you want to call it that, right?
How much was the geothermal?
Full geothermal or hybrid?
Full.
What happens how much do we save if we get rid of the geothermal from the hybrid?
Going to the hybrid?
Well, it wouldn't be hybrid then, right? It would just
Well,
be.
we would be going to the hybrid. You save $1,933,000. If you go to option 3, and this is again draft numbers, schematic design numbers, $2 million.
Well, it's $2 million, but you're going to pay for it every year after that for the next.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
You don't have the money.
And then option 4, which is the VRF alternative, you're at like $5 million.
$5 million savings.
Savings.
So now you're down to 15. And you take away the treehouse and the other thing. How much do you down?
Again, caution using. I mean, the treehouse. We don't have a number for. We don't have numbers for the underground because we've kind of taken that into the overall 5,000 square foot reduction.
I mean, if you have
You're
a
saying
price
treehouse,
for-
do you mean that like tower in the front?
The back, actually, the push out in the back.
If you don't have that in the budget, then that shouldn't even be considered now.
Well, there's certain things that were not in the budget and were not in the ad specs. Like, it was very nice to hear that they had put picnic tables and square pavers outside, but part of the reconciliation meeting was talking about how much these square pavers were going to cost. And I was like, wait a second, why are we even considering a whole outdoor dining area when no other elementary school in Fairfield has outdoor dining? And it's not.
Elementary school is the main point that you're making there. These aren't high schoolers that you want to
We
let.
can't let these kids outside to eat, and they're not responsible enough to take care of their
But it was good that's on the list.
Yes, so there was easy things for me to just say, take that off, right? But there is definitely more big discussions that we need to have. I was able to, yes, John.
And Mark, when we saw Barnum was hybrid geothermal, Neck River was full geothermal. Neither of those projects had solar because they said that they didn't want to pay for it in the budget. They were going to go back later and try to get the solar covered.
Add on, right. So PV is not currently in this.
I can speak to that. They're both pursuing it through one at Cheshire. There's an agreement with Johnson Controls. On Madison, I believe they may be putting that out to bid.
That's correct.
I mean, there are things that everyone wishes that, we wanted, but you can't have it. And if geothermal is one of the biggest ticket items, you take it out, how much more savings do you have off the top taking that geothermal system out?
Yeah, but like we said, you could save it up front, but then you're going to spend it back over time. And does that align with the town's sustainability vision?
Unfortunately, yes, but you can't make, how are you going to make that argument now? You're 20 million over, your biggest ticket item is there, and it's the town, right? As a building committee, it's our job to get the project under or at budget. And, it costs the town more down the road. Then next time that you have to say, if you want this system, you need more money into a building project.
I have a question.
I have a question too.
Wait. We're going to go. Nicole had her hand up first. Go ahead, Nicole.
I have a question for Pekan, Nick, and Mark. How often in your years of experience have you seen where a school's budget is 33% over? Is this common, or is this like, holy crap, it's normally? Because for some reason, Mark, I thought you were saying 3% earlier, but to get 80 million to 60 million, the 60 million, that's 20 million, that's a third. Is this normal, this amount of discrepancy?
I'll stick my neck out here first before Mark and Nick. I would say that the process between schematic design, design development, and construction documentation, you're typically over because you're trying to meet the aspirations of the project and then narrow your scope as you go through the documents. That typically goes from like 10% to 5% to 2.5%. Remember, these are estimated numbers, which are not competitive bid numbers. We usually do see some economy when we go out on the street. That being
How
said,
many times in your history have you seen 33%? Is this a first?
well, let me answer it this way, Nicole, and hopefully you can understand why I'm answering it. We do a lot of analysis of our historic bids where we come in for projects, and I know that when we're comparing project to project, we understand that this project's unique, has its own unique set of circumstances. That being said, I think you heard Neck River, Nick's numbers came in a number of years ago, around $520 a square foot. You escalate that up, it's around a little over $600 a square foot.
Yeah, he said 540 in nowadays terms, that'd be around 632, and we're estimating 688 right now.
Yeah. Barnum, which
actually at 892.
892
Yeah,
square foot.
Barnum that you just saw, Barnum that you just walked through on bid day came in at $600 a square foot. So escalate that up, you're likely in the mid to upper $600 a square foot range. I think there's some work.
But on just sorry to jump in here, but on Barnum, you have to include about $40 or $50 a square foot to remove the existing building. Barnum didn't have that, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's Norton. Yeah.
Is it okay, Nicole? Can I move on to Peggy's question? It was a good question. It's fair.
I'm wondering, can I just have Nick answer that same question?
I don't recall a public school where we had to cut 25% off the budget, but I do hear Justin's point. I think he makes a good one that at SD, when you have the biggest spread, but this would be bigger than ones I recall.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious because obviously we have to get back to the town, and they're expecting an update actually in this upcoming month, and that's going to be the question. These are going to be the ones that me and Lauren are going to be asked, and Mark. So I just wanted to know if this was common, so we can go back and be like, hey, this is kind of part of the process, or no, this is abnormal, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. Okay, I'm done.
It's a very good question, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it too. I don't think there's an easy answer right now. So for now, Peggy, I'm going to move on to you.
Okay. Now I heard that the cost per square foot was $688. Okay. Simple math. If we can get this $20 million down to $15 million by cutting out some mechanical, some of this other stuff, at $688 a square foot, $15 million, you would have to cut over 20,000 square foot of space.
Wait, Peggy, I'm sorry, your first number I think was incorrect. It's higher than 688.
I agree with her though. We were just told 688 earlier, but this 800, they're now saying, Peggy, $892 a square foot.
The 688 I used was a conservative number based on just the trade costs and didn't have the markup on it. I mean, it's a guess because, as Nick said, if we cut a foot off the corridor, we're not changing the mechanical systems. We're not changing, we're just changing the architecturals. We're not changing the number of plumbing fixtures. So I took 680. I mean, could it be 500 square foot? Yeah, it could be. Could it be 700? Yes.
How about if it's 1,000 square foot? That's still 15,000 square feet you have to delete from this building.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking serious numbers. We're not going to get that by taking out windows and picnic benches. You guys got to get real on your square footage, and you got to lop off a third of this building.
You can't lop off a third and still be living within the ed spec, Peggy. You can't. We can't.
Then you got to go back to the town and say, you gave us $75 million, $76 million, whatever it is. We can't buy the building you want for that. What we can buy for that number, this is what you're getting. And that's it. And they're going to have to live with it and adjust their numbers and go back to the state.
That's the process. Is we've got to find every avenue of cost savings that we can. We've got to get it down to where it is basically stripped down to where we still have the ed spec, the intent of the ed specs, and we have a new building. And if it ends up being more than that, more than the budget, then we would need to go back. But I think we can get it down to, we need a path forward. And the process is we look at all the avenues for cost savings and see how low we can drive it down to.
There is, basically at this point, there is not one stone that I don't want to consider turning over and seeing if there's there's any way to reduce something. And I'm even looking at, the ed specs, saying, do we really need things like the TV studio? I'm sorry, you weren't here. Yes, thank you. And Jason was in on those facilities meetings.
You don't need theatrical lighting. They're elementary
school lighting. There's certain things like that. There's also things that we thought about right after having gone through the tours. We're like, bleachers would be nice. No one else has bleachers in any of the elementary schools. So we can easily just things that we thought, wouldn't that be nice? Let's just take those out of our minds.
I think you're on the right track. Anything that the other elementary schools don't have in town, take it out, see how much the savings is. Yeah. How much is it to just go back to the normal box theory? How much savings do you have there? I get it. You wanted to make it look in the community and stuff. At the end of the day, it's on the inside. And then take a look at how much even the paving for the potential new parking spots you may not need. It's a huge savings there. I get we all want you. I've been wanting geothermal forever. If we can save it.
So just so you know, we are trying to also look at the site itself. One of the first topics of discussion we were at the reconciliation meeting was just the cost of the pavement itself and tearing everything down to grade. And I immediately said, why do we have to tear it down to grade? We already have existing pavement. And so one of I thought this was actually pretty neat that they came up with an idea to strip things down to a certain point and then actually store some of it and reuse it as fill for some of the, sorry guys, I'm not the right
sub-base.
The sub-base, thank you.
So you're gonna use the milling.
So we're gonna have to
Nice.
pay to pull it up and to find a place on the site to store it, but then we can reuse it again. So we're trying to find ways to do this as efficiently as possible. There's no need in my mind for us to tear every bit of pavement up and start with fresh. We don't need to do that, right? We even talked about reducing things like the rain garden and finding a better way to do the storm management. Maybe have a retention pond up on level with the building site itself. We're looking into all of these things that will help reduce the cost as we're developing the site itself. So I know we're very focused on the building, but I think there's other ways to look at reducing cost overall for the project. Okay, Nick, you have your hand up?
Yes. Nicole said something a minute ago that piqued my interest, and that was that you couldn't cut that kind of square footage off the building and still meet the ed spec. The last three Roundup elementary schools that I was a part of, Madison Elementary is 90,000 square foot. Their enrollment is north of 600 students. Pleasant Valley Elementary in South Windsor is 100,000 square feet. Their enrollment is nearly 700. And Washington Elementary in West Haven was 66,000 square feet, and their enrollment was just under 400. So if the enrollment here is 400, I guess I'm just curious why so much more space for this building, even at 85,000 square feet for the enrollment. I think.
Thank you, Nick. You did bring that up at the reconciliation meeting too. Like how do we possibly get to this number? And I agree. I initially going through schematic designs, looked at things and tried to see where we were missing square feet, but then I noticed that there was some additions as well. One thing I can point out, and this is just easy, was the gymnasium size. is about 1,000 square feet over what the ed specs call for.
We can cut that back.
So we can cut that back. But that's just one thing, right? But what you're saying is that based on our enrollment, which is 392, right? That's total. You're looking at a similar, the last one that you mentioned was just under 400 and they were about 65,000 square feet.
Yeah, actually was incorrect on that. I just got so it was their enrollment's 438 at Washington Elementary, and they're about 66,000 square feet. So they're a few more students than you at 65,000.
So I think we do have to cut quite a bit of square footage off the current design, as much as it pains me to say that.
Did you include ECC as part of that square footage, or did you figure that separately? Because that's the one difference between this school and I think the others. You have a devoted.
No, this is total. This is all in with the ECC.
So you have an ECC. Take the ECC out that wasn't normally there. The square footage is a lot less. But because we are adding an ECC, that's where your challenge is.
The enrollment is also less. That 392, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, includes the ECC students.
It does. It does. 392 includes the ECC students.
Now, I think I'm next. I think my hand up is after Nick.
Yes, Nicole.
I do agree, Lauren. If you remember when we did those tours, how flabbergasted I was that some of those spaces were really big. I was like, wow, like, you know, I didn't think we would need a nurse's office as big as some of these other schools did. I think we can reinvestigate on that. There's definitely ways to cut down some of the sizing on the square footage. I do also, again, though, want to point out, I apologize if I came off rude to anyone. You guys are all doing a great job. Part of my thing is we put the cart before the horse in this town this time. This town has never designed a building with the budget first, from what I was told. Like, we should have, like, the building committee should have been selected, and then we should have had to go through the process. So we were kind of given a budget and said, okay, now go make that fit, versus this is what we might need. So we do need to make it smaller. We do need to make it work, but we also do need to incorporate the town and say, hey, like, you're putting a group of volunteer committee people in charge of this, and you gave us a budget when none of us sit here and are professional estimators. So just keep that in mind. I think that TechCon's doing great. I think Gilbane's doing great. I'm trying to figure out where is it the normal discrepancy, because I think it's abnormal because the route in which we got here was abnormal.
Well, and thank you. And to your point, those were not schematic designs. It was conceptual, right? And it was an estimate based on their best guess of what was needed, obviously based on the ed specs, but they were looking at a lot of other possibilities too. So including not having ECC there. All right, Peggy, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question for TechCon. We have 392 students. What is the state reimbursement allow per square foot per student?
It depends on the grade level.
Yeah. Okay, that we need to go back to that, because we are in way excess of our reimbursement, and we are way in excess of the square footage per student. We need to go back to square one and say, if we have 400 students and they're only allowed, 100 square feet per student or whatever it is, that's what we're getting. If we have classrooms that are 30 by 30 and the state is only saying, well, we only allow 20 by 20, well, then your classroom better be 20 by 20 and not 30 by 30. Your hallways, like you say, that's an easy change in square footage. Take out all those little seating areas in the hallways. Make them very utilitarian, and they're just corridors. I think you need to go back to those basics and, throw everything out and start from scratch with the square footage that you can pay for.
Thank you, Peggy. Before we go on, Jason, Sal.
Yeah, if I can make a suggestion, you have a lot of VE items that are listed, and you might want to focus on what folks are in agreement to. And I'm not saying at this meeting, maybe through the architect or through Mark or through the chairman, however you want to do it, because you just can't hold a meeting via email. Kind kind of poll folks and figure out which are the easy ones that are to agree to, what's low hanging fruit, so that you can cycle that $20 million down to something that might be half of that. You might have a lot of agreement on a lot of the VE items right off the bat. Get that number and then start mincing, even put together a design subcommittee to mince over those next tier items that need a little bit more discussion, and then bring it back to the building committee to have a vote on it. Because I believe that a lot of these things, that if you just gave it to everybody and saying, yeah, this should be on the first cut list, they would check off and say yes.
I appreciate you saying that. We tried to do that already to a certain extent last Wednesday. I believe we can keep doing that. But I did want to bring all of the items, as much as I know it's like a laundry list, to the board so that they could see it and they could see what's being discussed, not just what.
Right, and that's not an unusual. That is not an unusual process at all. That the chair or some point person takes the lead on trying to bring the list into focus. But now that you have the list, distribute it, get all the buy-in from all of the committee, and then move to the next tier.
Thank you, Sal. That's a good suggestion.
I think the big start is the chairman said it right. Whatever the other elementary schools don't have comes out, and then you drop it. But this board needs to make tough decisions again, because again, we are all happy that we got the money to build the school. We did the right things. We got the stuff on the shopping list that everyone wanted, and we want this and want that. Now wanting and actually getting are two different things, right? So we have to make tough decisions, and part of that is going to be things that stand out the most, and that is...
I would venture to say, though, even if we were to have FCA in the room right now, which we don't, and they were looking really at schematics, not conceptual like they had, but they even agreed, just up front, that 9 months in design was too very minimal, and they agree that 17 months made more sense. But I think there was a lot of economies that were made to try to get this through in the time frame that the Board of Selectmen had asked for it, that the town working group had agreed on, and I don't know that truly at the end of the day, a year later, they would have still been at 76 million. But that is what we are faced with. That is what we were approved with. I would like to try to whittle this down to a manageable number. And I know we're starting at a very, broad scope of things on this VE list, but I do think that Sal's suggestion of let's just kind of get a general idea of what we agree can go. Jason, I hear you. If it's not already out there, we should cut it. All right, Nicole.
I just want to back up with Sal saying maybe what we should do instead of talking and about each of our own opinions, mine included. I'm the queen of giving my opinion. What if we take the list that you gave us and we sit with it overnight and we put check marks next to the ones that were like, yup, done. And if it's unanimous, yup, done. And that's our start. We have to start somewhere.
As long as it doesn't impact the kids inside the school. That's my only thing, right?
Taking away square footage impacts the kids in the school. At the end of the day, this is of course going to impact the kids in the school, but what's going to impact them the least on their education?
But if we feel that, then that's one of the last things we want to take away, right? Then there are other things you can find, to take away. If we want to keep the impact of the square footage of the school the same because we feel it's going to impact the kids A, B, and C, then there's other things we need to...
If you take a step back, we're already right-sizing rooms, which currently at Dwight are way too small for what these students need. So we're already, just based on the ed specs alone, we're already giving them classroom sizes that are more appropriate to modern standards. We're giving them breakout rooms. We're giving them services, things that were not even considered in 1962 when the original building was constructed. They didn't understand how much, over time, education has changed. Right now, if you look at it, we still have the STEAM room on there. We don't have a STEAM program any longer in Fairfield. That was cut from the budget last year. I'd love to see it come back. It doesn't mean I want to take away the STEAM room.
The STEAM room doesn't have to be labeled STEAM. It's still a normal classroom that you can use down
That
the
we
line.
could use. I know.
Right.
I'm just saying.
So
things have changed.
So those things
shift.
are
But
important.
I don't think it necessarily impacts the kids. We're not talking about taking away STEAM or world language or anything like that. We're talking about the extras that nobody else
The
has.
media room is
Right, that
an
can go.
example.
I think the extra 1,000 square feet to the gym, that can go. I mean, I'm just naming a couple of things, but I agree. Nicole, I think that's a really good exercise to go home, look at the VE list, and maybe make a list.
Lauren, can you turn it maybe into a Google Doc and we could send out the Google Doc to the board members so that it's a living document and we all just vote? No, yes, I don't know.
I wouldn't do a living document that we can all touch unless we all have our own column. I got to be honest with you because there's just too much.
I'm fine if we all have our own column. I'm just saying it'll be easier to tally at the end.
Yeah, yeah. That's a big ask. What do you think, Mark? Do you want to do that?
I can put it up on the OneDrive where everybody can edit it. I'm not a big fan of Google Docs, but
Yeah, whatever it is that makes it so that we don't have to have somebody else sit down and do all
Correct.
the tallying at the end like it's 1970.
I hear that. I hear that.
John stands up.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I just had a question. I hate to harp on this geothermal, but it would seem so short-sighted to me to just cut that out of the project because it's a big cost because it does generate a savings. It's got a very strong environmental purpose. So, like, weren't these guys saying there are tax incentives, there's direct pay stuff, there's additional state grants?
There is tax incentives and grants, and we do know that we're able to better pay for things like that through state initiatives. So I agree with you. I think we should not necessarily discount that. I think we should look at square footage before we even think about cutting hybrid or geothermal systems, which I know not everybody is necessarily sold on, but I think it one thing that we discussed is that the just because we still have lots of buildings in this town that still operate on the I'm going to call it option 3. Those are becoming quickly antiquated, and just finding like the coolant to use, I believe it's called, right? Every 5 to 10 years, there's a new version of that. You can no longer find the ones that were initially used. So there are costs associated with that that will be ongoing. So I agree. I think we should look to the building itself before we look to cut some of the big potentials for savings with these newer MEP systems.
My comments would go in the same place. The problem is the $2 million for X that we'll get back from the state doesn't.
We won't get any money back for doing option 3.
It may be a scenario where we have to go back to the town and ask for money as an investment with the understanding that they're going to get the money back.
But I would only feel comfortable doing that if I knew that we had designed the most efficient space possible already, if everything else was in line.
But when we're
So let's
talking
get
about
all
those
of
things.
Yes, I agree. But in the grand scope of things, I would feel comfortable going and asking for it, knowing that we would have incentives from the state, knowing we could get money back, knowing that it would be the environmentally conscious approach, and that part of our charge was to look at all green initiatives. So that's why we're still exploring them. Nothing has been cut, but I do think we need to really look at the efficiency of the space that has been designed itself. As beautiful as it is, and as much as I hate to say that.
And as we said, we had the reconciliation meeting last Wednesday. We had the reconciled estimates provided over the weekend. We said today. We're at the beginning of the process. So, nothing's set in stone, none of the list has been accepted or approved or whatever. Direction hasn't been given to Tecton to, go design. So before we do that, this list will be distributed and will be voted on by the committee before direction is given to Tecton to design.
Can I add something?
You and Justin in sync.
Sorry, Justin, go first, because maybe you'll have the same thing I'm about to say. Who knows? Go for it.
I do not believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the premium for geothermal wells or a well field was not contemplated in the original budget.
It's a fair point. It was not. Geothermal was not even part of the discussion. But all we know is that we were charged once the building committee was formed, well after the feasibility study and Spiegels and everything else was well underway. It wasn't even reported yet. They didn't even have a number yet, but they never talked about the full MEP systems, because I think we really have to focus on the fact that this was a conceptual design. They did not get into the nitty gritty on anything. They literally talked about the space, about what the shape of the building would look like, and the size of the rooms according to the ad specs. They didn't talk about the gross core factor. They didn't talk about the, the gray space is what you guys kept referring to it in the facilities meetings, right? Like the bathrooms, the corridors, the stairwells, all of that was not in consideration with that $76 million.
It's never brought up until you get to this stage. On all the other building projects, it is brought up. As I said throughout, it's always been on it, but now it's gotten better. I'm a big proponent since back then. It's just affordability, but you're still, like the chairman said, you're getting some big refunds back. You're getting this, getting that. If we can cut that, other things, keep that, then that's the way to go too. But again, there are going to be hard decisions, right?
Okay, I think we could talk about, yes, go ahead, Nicole, sorry.
What I was going to say is we should also keep in mind that things that we're going to sit here and say, cut this, cut that. Also, like Nick pointed out with ICF, everything happens in a certain order. So it would really suck to take something like geothermal completely out and make the whole building, and oh, we did have the money for it. And now it's too late because your excavators are off-site. We should look at it from a backward standpoint. Like, let's try and pick the high ticket. And we can't because we're not doing FF&E. Never mind. We can't because we're not doing FF&E. It just kind of sucks because it'd be great to move backwards on those decisions and then say, well, let's see if we have the money for that when the time comes. The geothermals, correct me if I'm wrong, would have to start early on, right?
Correct. Yeah, and all the mechanical can be based on that design. So yeah, but you bring up a good point, a good idea that there are a lot of elements and parts of the VE-log that you have to unfortunately make decisions on at this stage of the job or design phase. But there's others that you can defer to later, even middle of the construction phase. Whether it's landscaping, if it's a floor finish, if it's things like that. It's essentially a one-to-one swap or just a straight add at the end of the job. Identifying those on this VE log, I think would be helpful if we did that, so you guys had an idea of which ones maybe you could pick later on.
This log is a living document that goes throughout the design and even into construction, because Nick's right. There are items that, hey, we have money left. That nice to have that we can add on at the end of the project, we can still add on.
We also have a fantastic reimbursement rate with the state. So,
yeah, but he made it perfectly clear that does not change our budget at the BOF meeting. They made it perfectly clear we're being given $76 million, no matter how much the town gets back. The building's 76, which is why Lauren's very adamant. And I get Peggy Sue's point, and I agree. I wouldn't like to go back to the town with just our hands out. I do feel like we were set up slightly in the wrong direction, and this is why we're here. But I think Jeff makes an excellent point considering where we're at, $20 million. We do need to talk to the town about perhaps saying, can you please grant us the rebates and grant us that grace? At the end of the day, they're probably not even gonna, they're renting this money, but they're gonna get it back. Can we please use it towards it? Because this is a bigger amount that we could have foreseen, and it's an unusual circumstance, just like it was an unusual circumstance that we were given the budget before a committee was even formed.
Indeed. Thank you, Nicole. And thanks, Nick, for that insight. Okay, I think we need to talk at this point, so we don't keep kind of going in circles. We're 12 minutes before 4. So I think we need to talk about a path forward for the building committee itself, action items that we can do. And right now, guys, we've been operating on an every other week basis for the building committee, whereas we were meeting weekly previous to the summer. And we have been taking into account the design coordination, just the design coordination meetings. However, next week, Nicole, I begged off for the first because it's the first day of school.
First day of school.
And I knew that would be a challenge for us. We've got kids coming home, and I don't want to be in the middle of a meeting, even at 2:00 with the potential of them coming home. I want to be a fully present mother on that day. So right now, our next meeting is scheduled for.
Next building committee meeting is scheduled for the 8th.
Thank you. I was going to say the 7th. It is scheduled for the 8th. I did talk to the town about getting back to weekly meetings soon, but we still have 2 more design coordination meetings. 3. We still have 3 more. Okay. So maybe we keep to the every other schedule for now, but a lot of decisions need to be made. My point is, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to drag this out further. Nicole, you mentioned about
going behind schedule yet, or no?
No, we're still on schedule.
We're still on schedule. You talked about needing to go to the town with an update. I did briefly talk to the first select person about not getting on a September meeting, but an October meeting. The first October meeting would be October 7th. And she was in agreement that would be okay. So I think that gives us a little bit of breathing room there. But I want to be sure that we are all buttoned up before we even think about going to the town with an update.
I think by the 8th, with the suggestion everyone had about looking at what we can cut at that meeting, if we're all in agreement on certain things, we'll have one set number, and then we can nitpick. And maybe by then, you can actually take out 20 million before we even get to that discussion. We have 2 weeks to go.
And I'm happy to do more BE meetings to help whittle these down too, but we do need, I don't want to make these decisions in a vacuum. I want you guys to be aware of every single decision that's before us. That's why we went over the full list today. Again, I know it's a long laundry list, but these are all considerations. So
And if there's any others, please add them.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Peggy's up here right now. This is sort of, I love it because she is getting right to the point on a lot of these things. We don't need this. That is too excessive. This is, right? I mean, if we can all kind of put our very narrow scope of what it is we need to build and what we actually need and what's not going to touch the kids in the classroom, but just what we need to make this building run as efficiently as possible. And let's still take into consideration potential returns on investment, where if we ask for a little bit more money up front, we might get some back from the state, and we might also save on some utilities down the road. Right, we will. However, we really need to look at this building and the site and all the things. So a couple of things were already done and decided on, Peggy, from your list, like going from granite to concrete curbs. I could not agree more. Like, let's not do anything excessive that does not need to be.
Great list, Peggy.
Thank you.
It's a really good list. Okay, so
This list you're referring to is where?
I'll be sending it out.
there's a combined list of all of our comments, so like yours, Nicole's, mine, Peggy's, and Collier's, which is actually very extensive as well. Okay, so let's.
Can I make, Lauren, just the next 3 meetings, the design meetings?
Yeah.
The next 2 are room-by-room assessments. I don't know, can we do a room-by-room assessment? We don't even know what rooms we have and how big they're going to be.
So that was something that I was going to bring up because we already deferred the next meeting that was scheduled for next week. I think we need to.
The building systems meeting needs to still happen.
I think we need to park the room by room. Those are technically kind of design development, kickoff design development. We need to allow this process to play out. I don't think we're going to lose too many. I don't think we're not going to be in jeopardy of not covering the information at appropriate times in the design process, I guess is what I'm saying. So I think we need to continue, we need to land on this conversation before we circle back on the design coordination meeting.
Okay. And there will be time
Yes.
to do those. Okay. So I think what Justin's saying is right now the building committee meetings take precedence over some of those design coordination meetings that will close out that process for us, which I appreciate that. It's giving us the leeway and the time to be able to do it. And we do have the room already reserved through the town, so I'm not worried about being able to get in here. But let's put on our thinking caps. Let's have Mark create this document and post it to OneDrive with columns for everyone to be able to. I'd like a simple yes or a no. Can we make it as basic as possible so that there's not room for variation? Not strongly agree versus I kind of agree.
How about just an X?
One through five.
X in the box. If you want to put an X in the box.
Okay, I like that.
Put an X in the box. If you want it out, put an X on the box.
And Mark, if you did still keep filling in the prices where there was $0 values, there was a couple of those, if we could find out what those.
So Mark made a
I know
different
I'm automatically
list,
going
which
to
he
say no
had-
TV studio, so.
Mark had a different list that was up here briefly with a very, with checks and dots and TBDs.
Well,
Which
yeah.
I thought was helpful. So here's the full VE list, what we're looking at now, right on the shared screen. Do you mind sharing the other one?
Yeah, I'm getting to it.
Sorry, I know you were on to.
But, well, this is the V list coming out from, that includes a lot of the ads. The green dots are the ads. The check marks are the ones that are incorporated into the VE log that was being shown. And the yellow highlighted are just the TBDs that,
That we don't have costs associated with
no
yet.
cost associated with it.
So we need like more information, for instance, on some of
But
these.
some of that is, like the rain gardens that we discussed this morning, I'm gonna use the term negligible, but there's trade-offs between doing the rain garden versus landscaping there, and the cost associated with that would probably be, the costs of not doing the rain garden would probably be incorporated in the reduced landscaping costs. Because we're looking at doing a set number for landscaping that would encompass the areas where the rain gardens would be. So some of these are, like the basement mechanical room would be incorporated into the 5,000 square foot savings of the building.
Oh, actually, since you brought it up, I think it's worth noting, we did cut that this morning. We talked about the basement mechanical room not being necessary. And it kind of does touch a little bit, Peggy, on your point about the utilities. We thought that there was a possible chance for savings of having a sub-level mechanical room to maybe make the run, I guess, more efficient. But everybody was in agreement that it wasn't necessary and it wasn't going to actually save us any money or make the run shorter. It would actually add to the cost of trying to just dig it and leave it there. Right? Am I saying this wrong?
It was yes and no. There were some other, mostly yes. And no.
It's okay.
It was mostly about understanding that we had some grade differential there anyway, simply putting rather than having to provide the fill in that area, we're more or less providing basement space. So.
Okay. Does Dwight have a what?
Just to be clear, that mechanic room would exist on the floor above, essentially.
Yes.
Right, but we did need it to be subterranean. We didn't need it to be below grade, sorry, not subterranean.
Right.
It's gotta be so painful for you guys to hear me speak. It's like listening, like telling a surgeon, you should cut this open, you take that
I
out,
just
and
wanted
then
to
it'll
make sure
be fine.
it's not eliminate. It just moves.
I have a quick question.
Yes,
I have
Peggy.
a quick question. What are the ceiling heights can we reduce the price of the building by reducing the elevations? If we have like, say 15-foot ceilings and we bring them down to 12, I mean, that changes everything structurally. What kind of savings can we get in that and how much, I mean, that's, we keep the square footage, we just lessen the cubic footage, if you want to call it.
The floor to
I
floor
don't think
height,
that's going to save us $20 million, but go ahead. It's worth asking.
we typically carry 14 feet floor to floor height. The documents that were submitted as part of the SD are at 13'4". So what that leaves is either a 9'4" or 10-foot ceiling. So those, we don't typically go below a 9'4" or 10-foot ceiling, and I think that's likely what you have in most of your buildings, but I can go back and look.
Okay, yeah, 10 foot is pretty low for a classroom, so I wouldn't go any lower than that. All right. I just thought that might be a savings.
Yeah, we already took it kind of when we were designing the building at 13'4". So.
Okay.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay. Jason, I see you've hyper focused on that list. I can have Mark send that to everybody.
Yes.
But I think for purposes of this VE list, I think we should stick to the first one that you showed with the blue font. Thank you. Okay, so knowing that we're going to meet back again on the 7th. 8th. Sorry. On the 8th, let's set a deadline for responses for this, and I don't want to have to chase anyone down for this. Please do not make me do that. We don't have to interview anyone. We don't have to submit scores, but we just need a simple X, to Jason's point, an X if you want to take it away from the design. If it's something that's in there already and we don't need it, you're going to put in your column, you're going to put an X. If you believe that it should stay, leave it blank. Yeah, leave it blank. So X for remove it from the design, blank for keep it. And let's set a due date up next so that we can kind of work on it. Should we say the 28th? Sorry, where am I right now? Oh, no, not the 28th.
Today's the 25th. You want to give it one
I was looking at the wrong week.
The 4th?
The 4th. Yeah, let's set the 4th.
Get it quicker.
Can we get it quick? You want it sooner than that?
Yeah. That way.
We could do it by the end of this week, guys, if we really
I was thinking
knuckle down, but I think
first
it's
or
going to be
second.
tough. You were thinking first or second?
Yeah.
First is first day of
Second of September.
Yeah.
Yeah. That for you to get it in, to get the list in.
Yeah.
Because then you have a week before the meeting. Can we do the 4th?
That's what we just said.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. He's saying the 2nd, so he's saying 2 days earlier.
I mean, we'll make it the 4th, and when you're done, get them in.
All right, so we'll make 4th is the actual due date, but if you can do it before then, if you can do it this week, do it this week. If you can do it by the 2nd, that would be fantastic. But no later than the 4th.
Just to clarify, the square footage based on the ed spec and the student count. We keep saying that we have a lot of space. Is there an initiative to revalidate all of that to what we're talking about for space?
No, I mean, just based off of what we had already, with the gross core factor, based on the number of students, I keep going back to Collier's initial estimate of 85. 85,400 square feet.
You still need a plan. I have a hard time trying to cut back the square feet just because you also have to plan on the future of this town too. Yes, we don't have 200 something students now, but
Mr. Cut it if we can't pay for it now. And now you're like, well, you can't do that for the future.
Well, no.
I hear you. And don't
you're
disagree.
talking about
You
you're
can't-
talking
you can't
about
be
you're talking
business on it.
no, you're talking about that. But you what you're also saying with the other thing is you're assuming there's going to be a savings.
Jason, don't forget to remember that Tecton did do a good job, because I'm the biggest proponent of that. I've been saying this before I was even on the building committee. Think about the future so that a bunch of people aren't left in this conundrum 20 years from now. They already did come up with the next step designs where you could add classrooms to the building. So maybe you don't need bigger classrooms, but when that time comes, then the town can decide we have to grow the school. It already has it built in to take on new additions for more students. So maybe we let that be the focus versus larger classroom sizes.
Just look at everything.
I have a
Look at
question.
everything.
The square footage of the ed spec, was that, I keep getting confused by this. That's set by the town, correct?
Yes.
But then there is.
It's set by the
State.
Board of Ed, the Board of Ed.
Through the state.
No, the ed
Okay.
specs is set by the Board of Ed.
Or set by our Board of Ed in Fairfield.
Correct.
Now, I'm
By
sure
Jason.
that there's minimums set forth by the state.
There's a minimum, there's a
Or
maximum
ECC.
space standard, there's a maximum space allowable, set by this.
Okay.
by the
Is
state.
there a,
For reimbursement.
Reimbursement.
Correct.
I mean, maybe it would be worth looking into if maybe our, I don't know, is our square footage generous? Should we be looking at other comparable, like the Great Neck School and Barnum, and how much was each of their students allotted ed spec space?
Well,
Our math may be a little high, is what I'm saying. That might, we might be able to put an argument there that like we could do with maybe maybe not take away from the classrooms, but maybe certain other areas don't need to be as big as we were thinking as a town, and allot it there. And
I'll start off, and Justin and Jeff can jump in. With the higher student population, there are efficiencies that you gain with the allowable square footage. The more students, the more square footage you're allowed. With less students, the less square footage you're allowed, but you still have to, the 2 sections versus 3 sections of a class, what's the tipping point on that? And there are efficiencies with more student populations and the square footage. The gym doesn't grow, the gym for 400 students doesn't grow.
For 700.
Grow for 700.
Yeah, I mean, just in basic terms is like the Costco effect. A smaller elementary school, you still need a gym, you still need a cafeteria, still need all the toilets. The efficiency ratio, it's very difficult when you get into the 3s and 4s with elementary schools to make the state's square footage standard work. And that's why you see a fair amount of communities going for space waivers. When you get up into the 500 and 600 range, it's a little different story, because you can still run the sessions that you need to for an elementary school all the way up to about like 550, 600 students without needing 2 arts, 2 music, 2 those kinds of things. So it becomes a bit more challenging to do everything that you want to do in a 300 or 400 student.
the way you described it just gave me a light bulb moment. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the square footages that the state publishes haven't been adjusted. I believe the last time they made any kind of adjustment to that, it was back in the early 80s.
Oh yeah, it's been years.
It doesn't take into account
Remove what I just
new
said. The way
technologies
Jeff,
and all the stuff that we have these days that are in the classrooms. It's
okay. The way Jeff just
it's
described
disconnected
it now,
from
I see.
reality.
Yeah, I see why what I said doesn't make sense. So.
Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 7, if we can. We can still have, and I don't have it on here, but we can still have an open board discussion. I'd be willing to add that after public comment. But at this point, can we have Mark give an update on the project timeline so that we can see where we are?
Yep. We kind of already did that with.
I know, we added
yep.
a couple things in,
Yep.
so hopefully you've added those in and then we can talk about them.
All right.
Okay.
So we've had building committee meeting. We had the value management meeting. Next is we'll send out the VE list. The responses are due back on the 4th. Next building committee meetings on the 8th. We were scheduled to approve the schematic design and move to design development, but we will probably push that at least another building committee meeting. The next 2 design coordination meetings have been pushed for basically notice to proceed with design development. So in the next 2 weeks is the responses to the VE list. We have we'll probably be sitting down with going to the Board of Selectmen at the beginning beginning of September for approval
That's the
of
7th.
commission.
Oh,
Can't be the 7th.
commission, we have to
Yeah.
do the commissioning agent approval, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
So I believe it's the 9th is the Board of Selectmen for their approval for commissioning, and then we're looking.
September 9th.
Yeah, September 9th, and then we're looking for the 7th to go to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so everybody understand where we're at in terms of the committee itself?
Lauren,
I think
should we be prepared to go back to once a week starting September 8th?
Yeah, I mean, already Jen Carpenter, the first select woman's person's assistant, has us penciled in weekly. So it's a matter of me canceling things on a weekly basis, saying we don't need it. If we don't need it, I think we'll probably need it. But yeah, I'd like to just get through next week, through our first, back to school, and then the following week, starting on the 8th. I say we jump back to weekly. Okay, that's my hope. I think we've all enjoyed a more leisurely summer. We actually had at one point, I just want to remind you all, we had a month where we didn't have a meeting. I hope you all enjoyed that, because that's not going to happen for a little while now. Okay, I'm going to go to agenda item number 8, public comment. I know we have some people who have been waiting patiently. I don't know if they're still on. Okay, no public comment at this point. I'm just going to add in an additional item for open board discussion. Anything else from the board before I call for an adjournment? Okay. The time is 4:10. I'd like to have a motion to adjourn. Can I have this? I'm motioning. Yes, Jason, thank you. You're going to second. All those in agreement? Sorry, my Robert's rules have gone out the window. Okay.
We're
Thank
adjourned.
you. Thank you, everybody. And I just want to send Sal, is this the last meeting that we'll have you with?
Hang on. You want us to go off recording?
Oh, okay, we're gonna jump off.
Yeah, you're already up.
We're gonna jump off recording.
If I can do that.
Can you do that?